So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the ways that I read and take notes and create digest and things of the books that I'm reading. And I have tried the Kindle. I've also got a Kobo, the iPad, my computer. And what I have kind of nailed down that I really, really like is a Supernote Manta, for a couple reasons. Number one, I don't believe, and I've got 4 or 5 tablets that I've bought to test out and things, and I have never found any of them that have a better writing experience than you get with the Manta. The iPad definitely is the worst. The Kobo is functional, but one of the problems that I have with the Kobo, and they don't really have a way to turn it off, is if you like, I point to the screen while I'm reading, and if you do that on the Kobo, it changes pages on you. And so when you put your hand down on it and you start writing, it's kind of like the iPad. Things will kind of move around on you while you're in the middle of writing something. You never have that experience when you're working with a Supernote. The other things is I will download my EPUB files onto the Supernote. And one of the things that you actually have the ability to do is when you come into the options on that particular thing, you can go to display settings. And in here, now it won't let me change it. Let me get to a book that I haven't actually made any changes to so that I can show you how this works. So we'll just go to Animal Farm. So when it opens up, you'll notice the text. And I do have, one slightly negative thing about the Supernote, and that is the speed when you're using it. I'm hoping the next version that they come out with has a snappier processor in it, because it is, I'll show you. I'm going to flip now, and that's how long it takes for it to go to the next page. So it's, not the snappiest thing, but for the clearness of viewing the screen and being able to write. And I'll show you another cool thing that Supernote is kind of unbeatable with. But it's not a bad experience. That would literally be the only negative thing that I could say about it. Now, if we go back in here, so you see what the font looks like. It's a little bit small and a little bit hard to read. So I'm going to go into display settings, and then in here you can load different fonts. I kind of prefer this font, and then we'll just leave the size like it was. And then when I hit save, you'll notice that it'll change the way the book looks. So that's a nice feature. So I can go in and I can, do whatever it is I've got to do. Now, the coolest feature, because one of the things that you're tempted to do, and this is the way that I used to actually mark all these books up, is I'd go in here and I'd say, hey, this makes no sense. All right. So I would mark the book up like this, but what you end up with is a book. In this particular case, this book is 129 pages. So in this particular case, I would end up with a PDF, or, I'd export the thing out, because I like to store all of my ideas and my notes and stuff in Obsidian for the final place that they're going to go to rest. Because that gives me a quick way to go back and look at books I've read and things that I thought about the book when I read it. So Obsidian is my end goal. The Supernote and the book that I'm reading, some of these books are 500, 600 pages long, especially when you change the font like this. And so when you're making notes like this, it's hard to go back and find the notes. Now, Supernote's got a really cool feature where I can go up here to the little index, and I can tell it to show me everything that I've annotated, and it'll actually go out and show me just the pages that I've actually taken notes on. So it's a quick way to kind of jump around. but I have no real context. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to read what your note was on that particular page. And so one of the things that I've recently learned, and while we're here, you can also add keywords, you can put bookmarks. And so when you add keywords, they actually show up as a list of words that I can jump back to the different pages or different bookmarks. So it's very quick and easy to annotate this thing. But what I'm going to do instead is something that I've recently started doing. Is this little icon here allows you to actually create what's called a digest, and the digest is super cool. So let's say that I want to create a digest, and I want to create it for this piece of text here. And so that brings up, it highlights the section. So you can kind of think of it as a highlight, but you'll notice that when I hit the digest, the only thing it actually did was put these square brackets around that particular thing when I did that digest. But here's where the magic comes in. So if I go in here and I click on the digest, and I would only do this if it's a note that I actually want to keep some context, or maybe I want to add some additional detail to that particular highlight. So I'm not only interested in the quote that I'm grabbing, but I want to add some more stuff. So there's a couple things. I can go in here and click this little icon up here, and I can actually create digest by topic. So I can actually group all the different digest into a single topic, and they stay associated with the book that I'm actually reading as well. And so if I were to go in here and let's say this is a test. So we go in, we make our note, and we can just exit out and go back to the book. So we just keep reading. So I have a digest that I've set up here at the top, and I am, I didn't even know it did that. I can get close to it there and point to it. So there is, and by the way, I'm actually doing this presentation by sharing the the Supernote over with my computer. So you can do things like that as well. But what I'm doing now is I'm just going down through here and I'm highlighting code digest. And then let's say that I go down here and I highlight something else and I tell it to create a digest. So now as I'm reading, I've created the digest. The only reason I need to click on the digest is if I'm going to add some additional notes to it. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to actually look at my digest. And so in my digest, because we didn't actually add any particular section to that thing. So when I go over here, you'll notice I've got 3 uncategorized digest. So now let's say I have a category that I want all of these to kind of fit into. Well, I can hold down on this, tell it to select all, and then I can tell it to move it into a particular category. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's kind of one of the things that you can do. So I'm going to cancel that operation. And here is something else that I can do. And this is something I do with all of my books. At least, now this is my current process. It's not something I've been doing in the past. But now what I can do is I can go over here to books and I can go to the animal farm and it'll show me all the digest entries that I have for that particular thing. And for the ones that I've actually written notes for, it'll also include the notes. And so now, now if I press and hold, select all, and then I want to export, it'll go out. I'm going to tell it I want a PDF file, and I want to export that out as a PDF. And so what that actually ends up doing, does it let me click this here? No. So what that actually allows me to do is now if I go, I'm going to go into my Supernote and go to my export folder. And I have a file here for Animal Farm. So we're just going to copy this and I'll just put it on my desktop for just a moment to kind of do this, paste. And so let's open up Animal Farm. And so now what you end up with is you have all of the digest that you've actually created along with the notes that you annotated for that particular digest. And so now I can take this PDF file, import it into Obsidian, and link it to the actual book that I read. So now I can have a synopsis of what I thought about the book, and then I can have all of my digest or highlights that I created, quotes, those kind of things from that book linked into the actual book inside of Obsidian. So there's a lot of functionality that you get on the Supernote. And I know there's a whole lot of different tablets out there. And like I said, I'm hoping the next version of this thing is going to be faster for flipping pages and stuff. But that's literally the only downside that I have, and it's not something that is even a problem. In fact, it's as fast as flipping a page on Kindle. So it's really not that it's a problem. It's just, I would like for it to be a little zippier. But the flow that you get reading the book, changing the font, being able to load all of your stuff on here. I usually purchase my books off of Kobo now, because I can still download them and convert them into EPUB files. So, I read on the Supernote, highlight, do all of the stuff that I want to do. It works absolutely phenomenal. And then when I'm done, take the digest, dump it back out into Obsidian, and I'm done with that book. Now, I'm not going to go through it because it's not really, a huge deal. But one of the things, or a lot of things that you can do on the Supernote, that other things don't really work as well, is you can actually, with creating your indexes and all that other stuff, when you're creating notes. So if you go in and have a notebook and you create in fact, I'll show you the way that I do my notebook. I just need to, hopefully I'm not on anything personal. Now you can see how long it took to switch over to my notebook. Now I have a pretty big notebook. My notebook is 111 pages, as you can see down there. But you'll notice, and I actually, I've got a bunch of different topics in here, but if I go to the index up here, I've got a list of different pages that I've created. So, and you can see how many pages are in each section. So let's say that I wanted to go to memory exercises and I want to add another page to that section for new information that I'm getting. Well, the way that I use this is, instead of having a whole bunch of different notebooks that I have to go find the notebook and, I've got them in different folders and all that kind of stuff, I've kind of moved to just having one notebook and then putting all of my notes in that particular notebook. And so if I wanted to go into memory exercises, I would actually go to this next topic and then go back a page. And so what I would end up doing is I would pick this one, for example, for a hallucinogen, and then I would back up one page, and now I am in the section for the section that I actually was looking for. And so it allows me to be able to, very quickly go and add pages to the notebook and, the different things, and not have to go hunting for different notebooks. And so if I wanted to add another page, you just hit the three dots up here, tell it to add a current page before or after, and start writing. So it's, very simple to go in and do. And it works really awesome. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I still have a leather notebook that I write in every day for personal stuff. But because I still prefer pencil and paper. But for an electronic version of a notebook and the digest and all the other stuff that you can do on the Supernote, it is really unbeatable. It's pretty phenomenal. And even if you wanted to have a paper version of your notes, you can export a certain section in your notebook and it'll go out to a PDF file and print it, put it in a notebook. And I've got hard copies of everything as well. But for the, just the day-to-day processes, I don't go anywhere without my Supernote.